Hey, welcome to The Explainer. You ever have one of those little ideas that just gets stuck in your head? Something you feel could be way bigger. A product, a new team, maybe even a whole movement? Well, today we're going to break down this really cool framework that shows exactly how that happens. We're going to map out the entire journey from a private thought to a public reality.
So, to kick things off, let me ask you a question. How is knowing what a brother is different from knowing Archimedes' law? I mean, they both feel like knowledge, right? But the way we learn them tells us something really fundamental about how our minds actually work.
And the answer comes from this brilliant psychologist, Lev Vygotsky. See, he'd call brother a spontaneous concept. It's knowledge that's just soaked in real-life experience. All the feelings, the memories, the inside jokes. You felt what a brother was way before you could ever define it. But Archimedes' law? That's what he calls a scientific concept. You probably learned that from a teacher, with a formal definition straight out of a textbook. So one kind of grows from the bottom up, from life itself, and the other is handed down from the top through structured learning.
Okay, so these two ways of knowing, the personal and the formal, they're basically the building blocks we use to create our own unique view of the world. And this becomes what we're going to call your mental platform. It's the very foundation for everything you create. So let's dig into what that actually means.
Think about it like this. An established theory, it's like a public library of ideas, a theoretical platform. It's out there, it's objective, anyone can access it. But we don't just check out the books and memorize them, do we? No way. We grab pieces from all these different shelves, we mix them up with our own experiences, and we build our own unique, private library. That's your mental platform. It's your personal blueprint for how you make sense of the world.
And this mental platform, it's absolutely crucial. It's your personal, spontaneous system of concepts that basically acts as the operating system for your mind. It's the unique foundation that supports everything you do creatively, whether you're designing an app, writing a book, or launching a whole company.
Which of course brings us to the biggest question of all. It's one thing to have this brilliant collection of ideas inside your own head, your mental platform. But how does that private thought actually cross the barrier? How does it become a public reality? A real thing out there in the world?
Well, the journey from an idea to reality, it's not some quiet, clean mental exercise. A researcher named Oliver Ding really emphasizes that it's a messy, hands-on process. It means you've got to get out of your head and into the world. Actually make things, work with people, and deal with all the chaos. It's not just about thinking, it's about doing, saying, and making.
So you can understand this whole process through three core components. First, you've got the mental platform. That's how you think. Then there's the material container. That's the actual product or service you make. And finally, the behavioral network. That's the team of people you work with, how you do it. And this is where it gets really fascinating. This table shows this fundamental tension, right? The gap between what you intend and how the world actually sees it. On the left, you've got the founder's defined view. For your product, that's its language, the rules and purpose you designed. For your team, it's the values you put up on the wall. But over on the right, you have the world's spontaneous view. Users create their own experience with their product, and your team's actual culture, that's built from how people really behave day to day.
So let's zoom in on that material container for a second, your actual product. As the creator, you define its purpose, its design, its core language. But the second it gets into a user's hands, their experience becomes totally spontaneous and personal. They find their own meaning in it, completely separate from your original blueprint.
And the exact same thing happens with your behavioral network, your team. As the founder, you can define all the beliefs and values you want on a poster. But the real culture isn't what's written down. It's that spontaneous system that just emerges from the daily actions and interactions of every single person on that team.
So, we've got our components, the thought, the thing, and the team. But how does the main idea itself evolve? We've talked about the what, but now let's get into the how, the actual engine that drives an idea's growth.
The big aha moment came when Oliver Ding found this surprising link to the work of a developmental psychologist named Robert Kegan. Ding realized that Kegan's framework for how human consciousness grows could also be used to map the growth of an idea. It gave him the underlying structure he'd been looking for.
And this framework gives us a really clear roadmap for how an idea evolves. It moves through 5 distinct stages. First, it starts as a single point, just a fleeting thought. Then it solidifies into a durable category, a stable, defined concept. After that, it becomes cross-categorical, and it starts connecting with other ideas.
From there, it matures into a full-blown system, a whole interconnected web. And at its peak, it can become trans-system, a framework so powerful it can hold and interact with other entire systems.
So, the journey your idea takes isn't just random. It's a pretty predictable path from simplicity to complexity. It starts as this single, fragile point of view, and with work, it can grow into a really robust, complex system, one that's capable of holding contradictions and nuances and even whole other frameworks inside of it.
Now, this is all fantastic theory, but how can we actually make it practical, right? How can you start consciously guiding the growth of your own ideas? Well, this last section gives us a simple but really powerful toolkit to do just that.
So this toolkit has 4 different types of knowledge we need to work on. Think of them like 4 different lenses. S knowledge is the self-awareness lens, how you manage your own project. O knowledge is for understanding the object, the concept itself. M knowledge is all about methods, the tools you're using. But the most powerful one, the real game changer, is T knowledge, which is all about transformation.
Let's make this super concrete. A knowledge is when you first read about Kegan's 5 stages. You're just focused on understanding the object, the theory. You're asking, okay, what does this mean? Your only goal is to get the information right. But T knowledge, transformational knowledge, this is where everything changes. This is where you pivot. You stop looking at the theory and you start looking through it, like it's a new pair of glasses. You take Kegan's framework and you don't just understand it, you use it. You use it as a lens to analyze your own projects. You start asking, okay, is my startup idea still just a single point, or has it become a durable category my team gets? How do I make it cross-categorical and connect it to what customers really want? Suddenly, the theory becomes this incredible tool for action.
So here's the crucial takeaway, the bottom line. Real intellectual growth isn't just about collecting facts. That's just O knowledge. It's about developing T knowledge. It's about turning these theories into tools that give you powerful new insights into your own work and actively upgrading your own mental platform in the process.
Ultimately, what this framework shows us is that our ideas aren't static objects. They are living, evolving systems. They have parts, they follow clear patterns of growth, and we have tools that can help guide them. So the question I want to leave you with is this. Now that you know this, how will you consciously guide the growth of your next great idea?